Hi, beautiful souls. I'm not really sure how to start this video today, but I suppose I'm dipping into the subject of authenticity and obviously my own authenticity. When I do my videos, I make sure that I'm in a great place, that I'm vibing high, that I feel in the flow. But I just wanted to let you know that that is not always the case, and that I would say it's the same for many healers and teachers on this planet, that we have definitely got our own stuff going on. And the idea in doing this video is to let you see all aspects of who I am and why like who I am behind the scenes, for want of a better way to describe it. And even though I have been on an intense inner journey for over 30 years and have done a lot of intense initiations, attended a number of courses, read lots of books, and done a lot of inner work, I am still from time to time dropping into intense emotions, intense clearing. And I wanted to tell you about what's been happening with me in the last few days, just to let you know that we're all going through it, that if anyone was not going through it, they really wouldn't need to be here. They wouldn't be here. People use the phrase, the wounded healer. And I think in a way, a better phrase is a leading learner. So in the last few days, I was given an opportunity, offered an opportunity, which on the rational, logical level, or the level of this aspect that I call the adult, the self-reflective, self-aware adult, it was an offer too good to refuse. It would have answered a lot of questions for me, solved a lot of problems for me. It would have meant, on one level, being something great for me to step into. But at the same time, my inner child came up, and I was emotionally reacting to this situation. I was triggered, and so intensely triggered that I cried a lot within the 24 hours of dealing with this situation. And on a logical basis, you just say, no, it's not for me. I don't want it. Let's go. But what happened was it triggered my inner child, in that this opportunity was a huge commitment time-wise, and it was a 7-day-a-week type of commitment. It would be being on call in this situation. And my little girl, the inner child, felt trapped. And in the crying, in the diving deep into this emotion, that trapped feeling came up, that being made to do something that she doesn't really want to do because it's the logical thing. It was like I didn't have a choice as a little child when things happened to me. I was on the receiving end of some pretty sad stuff as a little kid, very, very little, up until about the age of 8. And I had no choice in the matter of what was happening to me. And something else was determining my life, directing what happened to me. I had no self autonomy in those very early years. So I have done a lot of work in different layers of that onion, of that abuse as a child. And this was another layer. And you go, wow, is it still here after all of these years? But what I do know is that you are only given what you can handle. And these deep, deep issues were not, I could not have handled them at a young age, as you know, in my 30s or 40s. It wasn't really only until the last few years that I had really dived deep into these emotions and to clear them, to see them, to release them. So for 24 hours, I was in a battle between my head and my heart. My head said, logically, you should do this. My heart and my little girl said, no, I don't want to be committed to this degree. And it triggered her inability to direct her life when she was little, the feeling of being trapped in a situation that she couldn't change. So the emotions were so intense that I wanted to die. I wanted to not exist. And all the while that I'm pacing around, crying, pacing around the house, trying to sort of, I was negotiating with myself. Okay, let's just commit for 2 months and see how it goes. It doesn't have to be forever. You can leave whenever you want. All of these things were coming into my mind, but it's really coming from the head, coming from looking at this rationally. But essentially, my heart did not want to be, it was not what I wanted to do. So in the emotions, as I said, were so intense that it was really the emotions of that little girl who couldn't cope with what she was faced with in those early years. And as I've said before, the emotions of those early years get put into a split off part of us that sort of exists in our peripheral awareness. And until we dive into here and understand this, it is still having an influence on our world. So in the last 24 hours, I healed a big part of this. And when I ultimately chose to let go this, what appeared to be a fantastic opportunity, I felt very different within my being. I almost felt more deeply anchored into my heart than I had ever been before. That part of what stops me, and I'm guessing everybody, from really living from their heart space is the unresolved issues that are at the core of our personality. There was another situation that I went through last year that I'll relate as well. Now, it's hard to sort of explain what happened, but I betrayed somebody's confidence in a certain way. And this person was somebody that could have been vindictive about this. And I started to go through this absolute terror. Again, deep tears, deep feelings of absolute terror, fear, and wanting to not be alive because the emotions were so huge, so overwhelming. And again, the emotions have been hidden deep within this split off part of us, this deep split off part of me for most of my life. Now, what the betrayal of the confidence was very minor. It was a sentence spoken out of turn. And my emotional reaction to that was over the top. And I was bordering on hysteria, crying, what am I going to do, etc. Now, both in the last 24 hours and last year, I understood that this was an irrational outburst of emotion. So while I'm going through it, I'm realizing that I'm keeping that observer going, this is, wow, this is huge. So I ended up talking with a friend about this and talking, and she really was just listening to me. And what I came to realize was that when I was little, I was threatened, my family was threatened, that if I spoke out and spoke about what was happening, that my family would be hurt. And in fact, for many, many, many years, I had a fantasy when I was very, very little, 4, 5, 6, 7, of every night I would imagine someone breaking into our house and murdering us or stabbing us in our beds. And I would rehearse how I would escape, that I would go out the window and up a path to a neighbor's house. We lived quite isolated as children, so it would have been, like a 10-minute hike for a little kid up this bush track to the neighbors. But now, and I'd always wondered, why did I have this worry? And that incident last year with that person triggered the emotion in here that I had spoken out of turn, and that what would happen because I had spoken out of turn, I would get essentially killed, as would my entire family. So that emotion that was here split off was triggered. And when I put 2 and 2 together, that it was a fear about what I was told as a little kid if I spoke about what had happened to me, the fear left. And I no longer was worried when I slept. And I had often through my life had trouble in new places getting to sleep because a worry would come up. And I would breathe it and feel it, but I hadn't gotten to the core of why I felt it. And over those few days last year, I did understand it. I did understand that it was related to what this threat that was made against me as a kid. So my point in this video is that there are times when I'm absolutely lost in these intense moments of release that seem that I haven't got anything under control. And, and occasionally I suffer, I suppose, from what I think it's called imposter syndrome. That how can I be a teacher? How can I be a healer if I'm go through periods of being absolutely lost and emotionally reactionary? And when I think about it, when I contemplate this, it's no wonder that I ended up sort of organically moving into inner child healing work. It's because I have been struggling to heal this trauma from my childhood for all of my life. I just wasn't ready to handle the depth and the intensity of the trauma and the wanting to die, the wanting to not ever exist, and pleading with something outside of me. When I was little, and I was raised in a church, in a Catholic church environment, that we believed that God loved us and would save us and stuff. And I would pray to that God, and it never worked. And so that level of trust was destroyed. And I have been slowly working towards that trust all of these years. So it hasn't been a simple journey for me, and I absolutely don't have it all together. So take heart. It is, as I have said, we are doing this. We dip and we come out, and we dip and we come out. And that is the path that we are traveling through, this realm of polarity and duality. And the more that I feel all aspects of this, because that inner child is in here in terror, has been and is slowly being seen and heard. And I'm holding her hand to help her feel it. possibly for the first time in her life after she split it off. So much love to you guys. Hang in there. We are still clearing, we're still healing. When you look at somebody, understand that there are probably things they're going through that you don't know, that you don't understand or don't see, and that just because they look like they've got it together, they may not, and are working diligently like you to try and come to a place of peace and equanimity about all aspects of their inner child, their adult, their psyche. So have a fantastic day, and I love you guys all.